Well, hello, and welcome back to Enrichment on the Go. I am Tanya Lofty, and I have my wonderful uh, mentee, everybody, everything. One of my, I love her as an educator, Miss Keyanna Williams, and we're going to be talking about how to find the perfect tutor or homeschool teacher. All right. So before we dive in, Keyanna is actually a tutor. And I was not a homeschool teacher. I actually homeschooled my children for 3 years before I sent
Really?
them. Yeah,
I
3 years.
longer than that.
It seemed like it.
Yeah, it seemed like a long time.
A long time. I homeschooled my two children, and I homeschooled them. So for kindergarten, first and second, I think. Yeah. So I did homeschool. So we want to kind of talk about this. Before we dive in, she's going to talk from the tutoring. What is the word I'm looking for?
Tutoring side.
Tutoring
perspective.
Thank you. She's going to talk from the tutoring perspective, and I'm going to talk from the homeschool perspective. All right. Whatever you do, whomever you have tutoring your child, make sure they have a background check, unless it's someone maybe it's the older sibling. But if someone's coming into your home, I suggest that you work with a tutoring company, or if they're a teacher and you know that they're getting their background checks. Safety is always going to be first. Absolutely. And especially if you have a tutor, a homeschool teacher, or homeschool, we're going to talk about the homeschool teacher piece. But please make sure they have background checks. I cannot express that enough. Making sure that your child is safe is so important. And you want to make sure that you are setting up an area where it's an open setting. Okay. And you want to ask questions. You want to know their background. You want to know how much experience you have, in a subject matter, and how many years of experience. So I cannot express that enough.
No, I think that's important too. But even just like starting off with sort of like a consultation.
Yes.
To, finding the tutor that is best for your family and, your child. I think that's really important before just like diving in, because you also want to be safe, but you also want to make sure that you are working with someone who is in the best interest of your child.
That part. And can connect with your child. Yes. Because you have teachers who cannot connect with children. I have seen it again. And it's horrible. And it's a shame, because especially when you had a kindergarten teacher who just has book knowledge and can't has no innate ability to touch the child, and the children, they rebel. You need to make sure that they see how they interact with your, like you said. I even my son, my youngest, he's older now. He's a teenager, and I had to look up. I was looking for a tutor for a specific subject, and I read the reviews and I talked to the tutor. But when my son was tutoring, even as a teenager, my husband and I made sure that it was in an open area. He wasn't in his room with on the computer. No. He was in an open setting. He was in the dining room area where we could hear. I had some things going on, but my husband was earshot, and we made our faces seen first, okay, before my son, or we were right there with him. Hello, I'm his mom. This is his dad. This is my husband. And we made our faces known to the tutor, because we have to be very mindful of the times we live in. And, there's a lot that goes on the computers. Okay. So we want to make sure that whoever your child is being set up with, people set up false accounts. So we really want to, parents, please, I cannot stress this enough. Stay involved with your child. I don't care if they're 17. stay involved with your child's development. Stay involved with them. Don't let them be, chat rooms or it's something like that. You want to be in on that, because if something happens, you want to try to know as much as you possibly can. Absolutely. And so I really admonish you, like you said, have that conversation with the person, you first as the parent, even to this day, I tell parents, if you would like a referral or you want to know more about me, you're more than welcome to reach out to another parent,
And most of the time, most educators or tutors, they have that information readily available because they know the I guess the nature or the importance of safety in their role. So sometimes they have like a short bio, or they have that open conversation, like, do you have any questions to ask me? Like, and I think that's a important thing too. And I want to talk about transparency, because in situations like this, especially if let's say that your child is going to, like, financially speaking right now, your child's going to private school, you're paying for private school, you're also paying for private tutoring, your bill is getting pretty lengthy. So you want to spend your money wisely and make sure whatever you're doing is effective. And that comes with being transparent with the tutor of what your child needs. And is the tutor able to is your tutor able to cater to those needs?
I think that's good. And he had a tutor for this class, and it was because they were, because of COVID, they were here. But the teachers, if you're in a private school, often the teacher should be tutoring or offering some type of tutoring. You should ask the school as well, or they may have groups where they come together and kind of can tutor, or your child needs that extra time. So I've reached out to my son's teachers, in the private school, to say, but let's take it from the private, because even with public school, the teacher should be assisting or at least guiding you with tools you may need. So talk about how to, I know you're an excellent tutor. I mean, you're just really good with children. I
am.
You really are.
Thank you.
So talk about some things that they should be looking for tutoring, back from tutoring.
Okay. Well, definitely starting off with background checks and everything safety wise, but then I will ask you, I mean, these questions are obviously rhetorical, but do you want a tutor that's licensed? Do you want a tutor that's not licensed? Are you looking for a tutor that has a certification? I know, like, a parent has asked me, do I have a certification? And, no one has ever asked me that. And I was like, yeah, I actually do. But they were looking for someone who was a certified teacher.
Wow.
Yeah. And I never really thought about that, because when they asked me, I was like, of course I am. But, no one has really, like, asked me especially if you didn't already know I was a teacher. So if you want someone who is certified or something like that, but also someone who is able to build a relationship with your child in such a short amount of time, though. Tutoring is a very short amount of time, and you don't have all year for this person to be building a relationship with your child. Just being completely honest, are they able to, get right in and really work with your child?
That's good.
Yeah, because I've literally, well, the way I tutor is kind of different. Like, first I do a session with the child, then the next session is I'm testing the child, and then we start working.
Okay.
So we aren't really tutoring technically until the third session. So, but the first two sessions are to build a relationship, then test to just see what they know, and then then we start. But also, when you're looking for a tutor, you have to really know why you need a tutor.
That's explain.
So, like, what do you want a tutor for? Like,
because my child got to be in a class. I want them to get an A.
Yeah, like try to make it like so specific, because that helps the tutor really like formulate sessions that are in the best needs of your child. Why did your child get a B? If they just weren't turning in homework, do you really need a tutor?
Yeah, that's good.
Like, find and work with the teacher. I know I've had conversations with other teachers. As a teacher, I have had conversations with tutors. This is what I would like for you to work on with so-and-so.
And that goes back to that working as a unit.
Yes.
So if the child, and even you may need to bring the child's report card so that the tutor can see, because most often on report cards, they will make notes. Teachers make notes. So they'll tell you, well, this is what we need to work on. And this goes along with setting goals developmentally for your child. So tutoring is a part of their development. So I think that's really good, that be specific in why you need tutoring.
And also know that tutoring is literally one, maybe your child just needs a smaller setting.
That's really
to learn. Or just maybe they just need to spend more time on a certain skill set.
Right.
So especially when, your child is, working with the tutor, know that this time is specifically for you to work on your skills. So you can go back in the classroom and show what you know.
That's good. And let me talk about, because I homeschooled my children, and I remember during that time, to find that homeschooling is different. You're not actually the teacher. Sometimes there are co-ops for different subjects. So you can work in co-ops, or there are some people that do, they homeschool like maybe 3 or 4 children. Maybe you all have the children that are the same age. My 2 children they're 3.5 years apart. I homeschooled both of them. They had separate classwork, but they did theirs online. And then I would have to grade and turn in everything. It depends on which curriculum you want to use. You have to think about all of those things with homeschooling. What curriculum do you want to use? What curriculum is the person who is homeschooling using? Okay, so you all will have to work together, because there's no one curriculum that's the best. But I used a backup with my children when they were younger. But I also brought in other things, because I'm just a whole teacher, because you want to bring in diversity. But for learning phonics and vocabulary, it was excellent for that. Okay, so you want to make sure there really aren't homeschool teachers, but you may have a co-op, or you may find someone who homeschool, is homeschooling their child, and you can say, hey, can you homeschool my child too? What I would suggest, and the reason I brought that up, I homeschooled my children, but they still had a tutor, because I did not want my children to be completely dependent on me.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because now they were in my childcare, but once they were in school, right, I did not want them to depend solely on me. I helped them, but I never diminished or didn't acknowledge that you need extra resources. That a tutor is a resource, that part. And I found a tutor. I was referred to one, and she came in and built a relationship with my children. And she came in and tutored, and I was honest with her. Hey, he's not listening. He's not doing this with this, or, can you talk to him? Can you see what's going on? Because, and parents, you have to understand your limitations, because listen, it depends on the subject. I am over it. I mean, honestly. And see, this is where our frustration comes in, and we just say, forget it. And you need to figure it out. No, they're not going to figure it out. They can't. That's why the teacher's telling you they can't figure it out. The child is even telling you, Mommy, I can't figure it out. And you're sitting up. I remember one time we sat up. Oh, gosh. It was for history. I hated history. I mean, I'm just going to be honest here. I hated history. And me and my son sat up. He had a test. And he couldn't get it. And we were up, and I was homeschooling him. We were up till like 11 o'clock at night. I was like, you have to stay, because I held him accountable. Homeschooling is not for you not to hold your child accountable.
Right.
Okay. It's not for you to like do whatever. Homeschooling is for you to allow your child to be nurtured and grow, or maybe because, some schools start very early. And I don't know why they do that for little children. It just does not make sense. If you start a school for a child at 8 o'clock, that's 6, they're going to be much happier. And like my youngest, oh my gosh, it was torture. It was horrible. I was like, I can't do this anymore because the bus used to come at like 7 o'clock in the morning. So we're up at 6 and he wasn't a morning person. So that was one of my reasons for homeschooling him, because the teacher was like, Miss Lofty, can you talk to your son? Can you talk to Evan? Because he's not, he's cranky. I said, ma'am, I'm sorry. He's sleepy. What do you want me to do?
I was probably like, don't.
Oh my goodness. And he would let you know. He would. Yeah. He told the teacher, leave me alone. I'm not doing it. And I was like, she was like, Miss Lofty, can you talk to him? I said, I appreciate you working with my child. I told the teacher, because I was grateful. Yes, I said, ma'am, I understand what you're going through. But he wasn't. But see, this is you as the parent knowing your child too, right? He was not a morning person. He just wasn't. So I homeschooled him. So when he woke up at 8 o'clock, ate breakfast, by 9 o'clock, man, he was ready to go.
And some schools, didn't you do this? Some schools have like programs where if you do have a child that's homeschooled, they can come in for certain.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So I actually did this with my children. So, my youngest, when he was going to high school, he had a lot, and this is why I say parents don't take your hands off the wheel. He had a lot of anxiety about going to high school. He was at his it was an elementary middle together, private school that went to 8th grade. So he started in 3rd and was there all that time. So it was a small setting. It was like 20 children in the classroom at least, but everything was in this one building, right? So he wasn't used to the moving. And even if you are homeschooling your children and then you put them in school, this is something you need to be very mindful of, because they're used to a specific setting. You have to get them mentally prepared to go into this new setting. And so my son, he had so much anxiety. And so me and my husband had to have like a lot of conversation with him. And he actually told me at the beginning of 8th grade, okay, regarding 9th grade, he was already a year ahead of himself. And he said, I don't want to go to high school. I want to be homeschooled. And so we asked the question. My husband was like, well, why? And so now my oldest, he was all in, he was all in. He was all in. But the youngest, he had a lot of anxiety seeing what his brother went through, because when he went to high school, there was some bullying things, just the different, it's such a funky age, but it's not a bad thing, but it's a funky age. So parents, I just encourage you, even with that, to pay attention and talk to your child. So we honor his request to be homeschooled. So I said, okay, there are certain subjects what subjects would you like to go to the school for? So there was a private school that offered where he could be home. He could go in for certain subjects. So I knew math, because I don't know math like that, not that part. Math, and I wanted him to go for reading, and I think it was one more. But he ended up being able to go like half a day, and then he would come home and do the other lessons online. So I did that with him. It was a great way, and this is a great way, parents, if there's some anxiety or anything like that with your child, it's a great way so we were able to integrate him into the school,
And it was balanced. I think it helped alleviate his anxiety about it.
A lot.
But also give that, it gave him that confidence in the areas that he needed to be in school for. And, he can also develop his social skills then at a half day he was checked out. He like, I'm going home anyway, so I'll see y'all later.
And what I noticed, and hold your children accountable even with homeschooling, right? Mm-hmm. So for him, I noticed he was starting to lag in some of the homeschooling courses. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, because there's a level of accountability at certain ages. Mm-hmm. And so I said, well, I noticed that you're falling behind on this. And what I don't want to happen is that you fall so behind that you can't catch up and you're going to have to repeat this grade. I was very open with him. And I said, and also we had transitions going on in our family at the time. My mom was, ill and in and out. So it was a lot of dynamics. I wasn't able to give him all the focus that he needed from me, because just because you're homeschooling, your children need your attention. Okay. So we had conversations and I said, hey, let's talk this through. I said, I think it would be best for you to go now. But he had like a whole semester or 2 semesters to integrate into the school. So he knew the teachers. He was getting to know his way around the school. Mm-hmm. He was getting to know the student, some students. And it's like, okay, I can do this. So by the second quarter, second quarter. No. How does it go? It's 4 semesters in 2 quarters. How does it go?
2 semesters and 4 quarters.
That's what I meant. So listen, that's what I meant. Say it again.
2 semesters and 4 quarters.
Hey, so my second semester, not second quarter, I'm winking. He was going full time. So we, integrated him in that way. And then he took off. Mm-hmm. So I think, if you're dealing with co-ops, and you are during homeschooling and you are teaching a certain subject, if you have that math teacher working with your children, then you may have a science teacher, but you need to see because there are certain subjects, the state only requires like a minimum of subjects, excuse me. So you want to just make sure, and you're going to have to work with your local state officials. You can't just say I'm going to homeschool and not tell the school board.
That's really important, because
people do it.
Yes.
What?
Yes. It's like, where's your child? And it's like, oh, I'm homeschooling them. Like, you have to say something.
Yeah, because they are going to automatically be on the school roster, because
it's by zone. It's by location.
Yeah, they're zoned to a certain school. Mm-hmm. So your child's name is already going to be on the roster. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to homeschool, you need to contact the Board of Education and let them know that you're homeschooling. And in your state, the Board of Education, they have people who are homeschool coordinators, and they're going to come in and make sure that you're giving them what they need for that grade level. So you're not just doing this and no one's making you accountable. So I used to have to meet with a homeschool coordinator, and they would come, we would meet. You have to have the subjects by subject. You can't just have 2 pieces of paper and say your child did this. They're going to make sure whatever age, whatever grade they're in,
they're going to be looking for a curriculum.
They're going to look for the curriculum. They're going to be looking for paperwork. They're going to make, are you doing science projects? Are you doing, are they doing research papers? Are they writing the papers? They want to see it. Are they having tests? So that's why you want to make sure, everybody's different. I picked a curriculum where they gave me all of the tools I needed to be the best to homeschool my child the best. So we would have to call in. They would have to read on the phone. It was recorded. There was accountability, because I always wanted to get a report card so that if I ever sent them to school, I could just show the report card. Right. It was easier for me. I never just graded everything and here's a report card. I don't have time for that. So, but everybody's different. And if you want to do that and meet with the homeschooling, but don't homeschool your child to keep them almost like in an incubator or a way like society is bad. Like, don't do that. I've seen that.
Or like,
and when you do homeschool, let me tell you something, homeschoolers, or if you decide to homeschool, there are so many resources for homeschoolers. The library, a lot of My kids did swimming. They have swimming for homeschoolers. So you pay like half the rate. I mean, it was amazing. So my kids did swimming. I kept them in sports activities.
Extracurricular.
Mm-hmm. Make sure your child is getting social engagements. That's what I want to get to. Because outside of their siblings or outside of just you, because sometimes it's the only child. You want to really make sure that they are able to engage in society. So, and let me dispel this. A child that's homeschooled is not, they're highly intelligent because they get to learn in the environment that they're already in. And who's not comfortable in that? Well, in a healthy environment, you're comfortable in your home. So it makes it easy. Learning is easier because you don't have all the distractions. You don't have bullying. You know, I want to talk about the pros of homeschooling.
Yeah. I think the environment is a good point too. And also being able to, even though you're home, being able to break up your day. So still go outside, you know, for recess, still sit down at the kitchen table and have lunch, get away from your actual setting. And even with tutoring, just being in an environment, I tutor at the library. That's just a personal preference for me, just because I don't know what everyone's home situation is like.
And I think it makes it more accountable, more open.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, a library is I don't know, some schools may open it up, but I know my school doesn't. So a library is just a safe and isolated space to work in. So, but, you know, when you are at home, you know, you can create the, you know, classroom, make them, you know, let them have a desk and, you know, stuff like that.
Bringing that up.
I think that's a good.
They have, if you're homeschooling, they have to have their own space.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of flexibility with homeschooling because I was actually homeschooling, running a business. And so some days we didn't do lessons if, you know, we had to get the pipes fixed or something in the house, you know. Okay, so we just push the lesson back a day, or we, you know, do something of that nature. But for the most part, you want to keep that routine. Schedule. You want to keep a schedule for your child, right? And the only thing my children didn't like about homeschooling, because even when it snowed, they didn't get out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they didn't get out of school. You were at school, but they always got out of school early, so they were happy about that. Homeschooling, you have the ability to keep going, you know, even throughout the summer. But even if you are bridging that gap, and my children had more than one, two, you know, not at the same time, but sometimes the tutor changed when they were homeschooled. One of them had a tutor while they were in middle school, so they met at the library. So that's a great, like you mentioned about that. But you want to make sure that the tutor, or if you're going to homeschool or do a co-op, that you are engaged as the parent. I think don't take your hand off because you don't know the subject or whatever it may be. You have to stay engaged with that.
And also, just from a tutoring perspective, I know at the end of my sessions, you know, if a parent comes in, I'll tell them everything that we just did.
Yeah,
just
good.
In case you wanted to, you know, take something back, do it at home, or maybe you wanted to share with the teacher, you know, this is what so-and-so's tutor was showing me, and, you know, he or she did excellent with this. Like, maybe that's something they can do in the classroom. But you wouldn't know that, you know, if you weren't communicating. And, you know, so just ask questions. You know, what did you do this session? What do you have planned for this session? You know, like questions like that are harmless questions. I know I hear a lot of parents say, you know, I don't want to be that overbearing parent, or we call it the helicopter parent.
Yeah.
Who is just like
they're hovering.
Yeah, but it really takes a lot to get to a helicopter parent. Like, really asking as a teacher, and this is for me, you know, this may be different for a different educator, but if you're asking me questions literally about a child's needs and something that's going to make them successful, I don't think that's being a helicopter parent. Asking me, is their pencil sharpened at 10:15 when you should be doing something else, is a helicopter parent. Because why are you worried about a sharpened pencil? Like, we got it.
Yes, and it's so funny because when when my son went to high school, it was a private school, and they gave a book. They actually had like the parents come in, and they were like, "Okay, parents," it's like they didn't cut off communication with us, but they
I like it already, but
right, they held the child accountable. Mm-hmm. So it made them kind of grow up. Mm-hmm. And they, my son, he was falling through the cracks a little bit initially, like that. What is it? Semester, quarter? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that part. The first half, he was falling through the cracks, but then he started to get better. Mm-hmm. But it was holding them accountable, and they actually talked about being a helicopter parent. Like, parents, don't email us. We're going to email your child. Like, they were very.
I mean, I think that's good too, and I love that it shows him. It showed him, and it shows them accountability.
Yeah, because when they go off to college, you're not going to be there. Mm-hmm. So these are things for you to think about. But homeschooling is a beautiful thing. Make sure you have a routine. Involve your child in cooking activities, things of that nature. You want it to be engaging because, again, children are learning. So. Mm-hmm. I think homeschooling is a great way to bring out the creativity in your child. And if there's special gifts or talents your child, they may not have the time to do that within a school setting, because everything's timed. And I'm not knocking a school setting, but everything's time, and they're always taking tests, and we're not going to talk about that. Benchmark. Well, maybe they didn't meet that benchmark. That doesn't mean that they're not going to meet it. Mm-hmm. So I think homeschooling gives you a little more freedom and gives your child a little more time to think. And as we close, I remember homeschooling my child, and me and the homeschool coordinator, we were talking. And parents, I just want to encourage you, even at the high school level, if your child decides that they want to be homeschooled, listen to your child, because sometimes with high school, there's a lot of bullying that goes on, and a lot of bullying, and a lot of children would just opt to be homeschooled so they're not being bullied, because they're not even learning. The learning can't take place if the environment is not conducive for learning. Just like if a child is hungry, the basic needs, Maslow. If the basic needs aren't met, learning is not going to take place. So if your child is hungry and
doesn't feel safe,
they're not. And just make sure. I want to go back. What do you see? Keep your finger. If your child is not wanting to go to school, it could be a bully. There could be something going on. So you may want to homeschool. And I noticed that I don't remember what year that was, but a lot of high schoolers were opting to be homeschooled. They were asking their parents to be homeschooled because of the environments that they were in.
And I think you said it in a previous, I don't know what
episode.
I was about to say in another episode. Just the importance of being proactive versus reactive. I think that, sometimes don't wait till it's too late.
Wow. And that talks about the suicide.
Yeah, don't wait till they're traumatized.
Wow.
And then let me pull my child out. I think listening, your child will tell you their needs.
Yeah.
You just have to listen. And unfortunately, sometimes, parents do wait till it's too late, and it's unfortunate. But if you have a proactive mindset, you wouldn't get that far.
I think that's good. And parents, that's why we're grateful to be able to just give you tips and tools, and just from what we've seen within classrooms and our own experiences, we want to help you on your journey of being a parent. So thank you for tuning in again, and we'll see you next time.